big news this week is centers around the Kavanaugh nomination. I think last week, I mean, really towards the end of the week, we thought a week, no, I guess I'm trying to just do the math here. About a week and a half ago was the first vote that was scheduled, right? Initially, it was supposed to be a week ago last Thursday. And it got held up because of reports. And we have we're sitting down with Ryan Grimm this week, who broke the first story about the existence of a letter sent to Dianne Feinstein, as well as another California congresswoman, from a woman who claims that 35 years ago or so, she was sexually assaulted, nearly raped, or at least, she felt that she could have been raped were it not for the level of intoxication by Brett Kavanaugh and another man, a writer, Mark Judge. We've got plenty to talk about with this guy as well. And of course, this slowed the nomination. Last weekend, the accuser made her name public, and basically because she thought that there were already reporters who were tracking her down. And her attorney, as of last week, I think it was on Monday, had said she would be willing to testify. Subsequent to that, Grassley scheduled a hearing for this coming Monday. And then the accuser anticipated, like a lot of people, wait, what about the FBI investigation? And so now we're in this sort of netherworld. And it is, I mean, and you had mentioned before we went on air that there has been a tremendous amount written and said about this, but for good reason, right? Like, this is what the Supreme Court, it seems to me, has been the one story since 2015 when, of all the but-fors that we talk about, that allowed for Donald Trump to win, that range from Clinton's, baggage as a candidate, to her strategy, to a Comey letter, to perhaps cheating, to a whole host, to misogyny, to a whole host of things. One of the big reasons that gets not as much attention as it probably should was that seat was open on the Supreme Court. And there was a lot of evangelicals who said, I will suck it up and vote for Donald Trump because this could mean the difference on the Supreme Court.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's pretty well been, at least that's what they're saying. I personally have a suspicion that plenty of those evangelicals also liked a lot of the other stuff about Donald Trump,
right,
and that sucking it up may have been confined to a small subset of the evangelicals because, I think there's a lot of sort of cultural affinity in certain ways that we may not have realized before, or at least not fully put together. But
fair enough.
Having said that, I do think that this has been, and look, we've all been talking about the Supreme Court in every election. It's always important, right? I mean, there's always some old people on the court, and you never know when somebody's going to die. I mean, I don't think people expected Scalia to go down when he did,
right,
or Kennedy to, he could have waited. There's no, real reason why he had to retire this time, and there are political considerations in all of that. So it's not surprising that, this is a major topic. It should be a major topic. And in fact, what really should be a major topic is whether or not we should have these lifetime appointments at all.
Right.
Because this is ridiculous that you can have an illegitimate president like Donald Trump be, putting two people on the court. Basically he has no clue what he's doing other than I think in Kavanaugh's case, he figures this guy will be loyal to him and will ensure that that the court rules with him in any cases coming before them having to do with his, traitorous behavior. So, we'll. I think that there's a lot to talk about on the Supreme Court aside from this particular situation. Having said that, this guy and this particular, this particular nomination is worse than usual, and that's saying a lot. I mean, Neil Gorsuch is he's going to be to the right of Samuel Alito. I mean, that's how conservative he is. It's the worst thing on an ideological level you can imagine. He is, even Scalia probably had a few quirks, a little libertarianism thrown in once in a while that maybe took him outside the Clarence Thomas level of conservatism. Gorsuch is Thomas level, but Kavanaugh is something else, and he is a right wing hitman. He is not. I wrote a piece for Salon earlier in the week in which I discussed at great length Kavanaugh's his history. His pedigree, which, Senator Brian Schatz, I think he said it perfectly. He went on Pod Save America and he said, Kavanaugh's different than John Roberts. He's not a conservative jurist like John Roberts or Neil Gorsuch. He's a Republican operative posing as a judge.
Right.
And that is exactly what this is. I mean, this guy, even if you go back to his high school days, which we'll talk about in a bit, but this guy going all the way back to the beginning of his professional career has not been a sober, serious-minded jurist, even on the level of someone like Samuel Alito or Neil Gorsuch. This is someone else. He is something different. He is, they could have just as easily put Roger Stone on the Supreme Court for how much this guy has been involved. He got a law degree. He, kind of came up through the legal side of the Republican operative, like George Conway, the guy who's Kellyanne Conway's husband. There's a whole bunch of these people. They called them the elves back in the 90s. They were the ones who put together the Paula Jones case, and Kavanaugh himself was on the Starr investigation with. In fact, Ken Starr is one of his mentors, along with Alex Kozinski, the federal judge who's accused of blatant sexual harassment. So, this guy Kavanaugh is something different, and there's a reason why they put him on there. And I really think that this isn't just feeding the evangelicals. They're happy to have him. They know he'll vote their way. But this is also feeding the conservative movement and saying, guys, hang in with us. We're getting it done for you. Look who we put on there. I mean, we couldn't put Kellyanne on, but, here you go. Ann Coulter, she's not available, so we put Brett Kavanaugh instead.
I think you're absolutely right. Look, Digby, we got to take a break. Let's pick it up from there because I want to hear more about Kavanaugh's pedigree. I want to talk more about that. And then also start to, try and get a sense of gaming this out in some fashion because it is obviously we're talking about really the direction of the country for the next 20, 30, possibly 40 years. We got to take a quick break. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. I'm talking to the great Digby. We'll be back in a minute.